Welcome back to the channel. And a while back, the Galactic Armory released the Dark Helmet files. And if you haven't watched that video that I've done on that build already, I'll put a card up here on the top that you can click on and watch for the build part. But today, we're going to build a head harness to put inside this helmet. So let's get to it. Thank you so much for supporting our channel. Make sure that you hit that like button down below, subscribe, leave a comment, because it's those things that help support this channel for free and let us do more content for you. So first off, I want to say that everything that I'm going to talk about today, other than the Galactic Armory files for the Dark Helmet, you can get those off of their website, which will be in the description. Everything else I'm going to talk about today, hard hat liner and our Halo, are going to be linked in the description. And I'm kind of doing this video last minute, so if the Halo is not in the description, email us and we will send you a file for that. When this helmet came out and I did the build, I realized that there was no possible way to easily mount this around your head and actually have the visor work correctly. So first, I want to go over a couple quick things. You'll see here the different color on this. It turned out that when I was testing this, the visor slammed down at one point and snapped these rings once everything was glued together for the stops that I had in there. And we're going to also attach some stops so that this faceplate won't go any further than it needs to and it sits correctly. As I was testing this, I mean, this thing has been dropped and jostled a lot during this whole process, but I had to cut these off and I reprinted the rings here in 6 walls, and I believe it was like 40% infill. So basically they came out solid. So I do want to preface by saying, if you're printing this faceplate, make sure that you don't skimp on it. Make sure that you print it very robust, simply because of these rings. Because if those break, once everything's glued together, it's incredibly difficult to disassemble this from the helmet. Let's talk about the Halo that we've designed. So before I take the hard hat liner out, this is how it works. It's got an adjustable, for adjustable head size on it. And this, very self-explanatory, hooks into the faceplate. And just a quick basic look at it. These go on either side, and then they slip up into the helmet where they need to be epoxy glued, hot stapled, and I will leave a link in the description as well on the plastic welder that I'm going to use. We need this to be robust, and we need this to make sure that it is able to stand kind of a small beating as you're wearing it and cosplaying in it. So I will also say that one of our design flaws currently are these flaps, which I haven't decided if I'm going to cut them off yet or leave them, but they do allow the helmet to go up and lock. It just was a bonus that just so happened the way it happened, and I think I'm going to leave it for now because it gets up there and it locks pretty good. I am worried about it slamming back down again like I had the problem in the first place, but we'll get to that as we go. So let's jump over to the program, and I'm going to show you how I printed this, and you're going to be able to get a better view of it. So today I am using Prusa Slicer, and it's just large enough of a bed. This is the Prusa XL I'm printing it on. It's large enough that I'm able to drop this in one print. So we're going to grab the file, we're going to drop it in, and as you can see, it fits fine on the bed all around. But if you're using a smaller printer, you might actually have to slice this. I haven't decided yet exactly where the optimal slicing place would be. It might actually be somewhere on one side or the other of this post, just so that the post doesn't get disturbed, because that's your stop block to keep it into the back of the helmet. But we're going to grab this, and I'm going to walk around a couple quick things on how we did this. So first of all, we're going to throw it into the middle of the bed, and I did use organic supports. Today, just for simplicity, instead of organic, I am going to use just normal supports. But the biggest thing is your parameters, your layers, your shells. I printed mine in 6 shells, and it seems to be pretty robust. I'm not sure that I wouldn't go up to even 8 potentially. And the infill really doesn't matter too much on this because of the shells being so thick. But you're going to get a glimpse of what we're looking at here. So you can see there's not a lot of wasted supports on this. But the most important thing is the shells. So that currently being set, and I believe I just set it at 8, you can see how thick this thing is going to be. And we want it thick, we want it robust, we want it so that it's not going to crack, flex, or break. And with the 8 shells, it does make it into a solid ring that's going to go around your head. Once you have this printed, you can see it does flex a little bit, but it's pretty robust. I've kind of put this thing through some pretty decent stress tests, because once this is all glued in or epoxied in and plastic welded in to the helmet, we really can't remove this and start again if something goes wrong. So the hard hat liner that I found, I will put a link for that in the description. You can see that we are using the lowest setting on the hard hat liner here on both sides. So you probably want to set these up the same way that we currently have them so that it fits into our Halo. They've got little tabs that slide in, and we've got spots for those to slide in. They friction fit in. They don't need to be glued or anything else. And if you work your way around the Halo here, you will see it's not going anywhere. All right, so that's where we are currently. The back does have the adjustable part. We're gonna start installing this thing, and we're gonna do this in a couple steps. One, I'm gonna get it all assembled, and I'm gonna make sure that it's secure in there. I might use some super glue as we go, but I wanna make sure that, again, we use a plastic welder because we want this thing to never move again. So let's get this flipped. I'll get a better camera angle. I will do my best with the camera angles. Okay, once your faceplate is completed, we wanna get that ready to go. Again, once you assemble all this, there is no going back. So we're gonna slide these posts into the ring receivers, and we wanna start with putting that down inside there for the moment, because the post that's in the back, we wanna make sure that we don't get it above the part of the helmet where we can't get it back out. And then the attachment pieces that come with the files of the helmet, we are going to slide those in there in the correct orientation. Here's what I'm talking about. We need to make sure that that stays below the middle of the helmet. So now that post is not allowing that to go anywhere on the back side anyway. And as you can see, this is now free floating, and it does lock up underneath. So let's start with actually attaching the helmet. These rings that go against the helmet need to be glued together, and this post that goes in from our Halo also needs to be glued in. The most important thing is we do not want to get any glue on this, what's silver in my video, so that that helmet can rotate. So let's drop some glue into these and go from there. So at this point, as I said earlier, I don't fully trust the glue, so I'm going to use my plastic welder. And this is not going to be a pretty job. We just have to make certain that we don't go all the way through either side. I'm just looking right now to anchor this in without poking through the outer wall of the helmet. I will link this plastic welder in the description. And yes, I am going to overdo this, because I do not want this thing ever popping back out. So now I'm going to cut all these tags off, and I'm going to grind them down with my Dremel so that there's no sharp edges, and I'm going to do that off camera. So we've got our staples in now, and I'm fairly confident that those are never coming out. Those are plastic welded with metal staples into the helmet body, into the part here. And now we are to the point of no return. We have to attach these parts in. Okay, so we've got our faceplate in here now. It is not glued in. I don't think I'm going to glue it in. I think I'm going to run some staples. And again, you're not going to be able to see this on camera, but I'm going to run some staples clear down through this piece here, the inside piece. I'm going to contact it with this post without disturbing where the gray or silver area is here. So let's see if we can get in there and do that. Very important though, before I do that, this post on the back of the Halo actually has to be seated against the back of the helmet because we don't want that to go anywhere. So let's just, hey, we're all learning here together today, aren't we? Let's just put a drop of glue there. I am going to plastic weld this back piece as well. But this should, putting a drop of super glue there, in theory, should keep that from moving forward, I hope. So you just need to be mindful that this post is against the back wall here, and we're going to drop this clear through all the way down into as deep as we can go. So I'm not going to trim these yet because I can make certain that those are set in deep enough. And then I can trim them, because if they're not, we can just stick this back on here and reheat it and grab it, push it in further. So we're going really deep. I feel like that should be in there. We're going to let that cool. It still rotates with no problem, which I didn't expect to have a problem. I might have been able to run a bolt or something down through there too, but I think this is going to be the easiest, quickest way to do this. So we've got a couple posts to cut off here, but I think this is going to be a winner. All right, so we're going to trim these off. And then we're going to go back and grind those down so that they don't make contact in your finger or something later. Those are in there pretty darn good. I'm going to let them cool off a little bit. All right, now we're into the stop blocks. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to find approximately where I want the helmet to sit, and then I'm going to have to find a way to get that kind of taped up. So that is pretty much where I want it. It looks right to my eye. And now we're going to drop these in there. And again, we're going to plastic weld these to the collar. We still want to stay away from this what's silver on mine so that we don't lock the faceplate in there unintentionally. Does look like it's going to stop it pretty well. Let's go ahead and get the other side in. Pretty happy with that. Let's undo this. Let's fold this down to the front. Hey, it's moving. That's a good sign. And let's do our best to get a couple more staples in on the side over here. This is definitely not the prettiest job I've ever done, but I'm looking for the function of it more than I am anything. So again, following back up, going to trim all these posts off, going to grind them back down so that they're nice and smooth, and then we're going to direct our attention to this post. We're going to do some plastic welding on it. I've got some very thin adhesive foam. I'm going to try putting in here to maybe mitigate some of that hard hitting that comes down. Don't know if this will work. This is just weather stripping that I've cut down. So there you have it. Hopefully this video was helpful to you. It was a little bit of work getting all those staples in there correctly so that the visor still continued to move, but I'm pretty happy with it. I do have an interesting click, and I think it's one of the edges of the staples contacting something as it moves by. I'll dive into that a little deeper and see if I can figure out what it is. But I'm pretty happy with it. So now for the moment of truth. Does it actually fit, and does the visor rotate? It most certainly does. So we did it. We managed to get a halo that actually works in this thing. So thank you for coming over to the dark side of the Schwartz. Now, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Again, thank you very much. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. We'll make the file available. You can get the dark helmet file from the Galactic Armory. I know I've had a lot of people since my first video that I did on the build have reached out to me and said, how are you attaching this thing to your head? Well, now we have a solution. And if you guys find an easier or better way to do this, make sure you let us know in the comments. I expect this will be an ongoing process, and I don't want to do any more redesigning of the Halo in there, but if we have to, I might. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.